I thought it was.
Yeah.
Did you get it?
Yeah. So they'll give us a fee proposal once they have a look at
Get it started here.
what that's gonna cost. And then,
Yeah, we should talk, we want to try and do a thing.
I wanna know how much it's gonna cost.
Everybody good?
Before we
Yeah.
get to it, because
Cool.
if it's.
Hello, welcome everybody. I'm going to call this meeting of the Advisory Committee on Accessibility and Inclusiveness to order for today, Wednesday, March 11th. Thank you so much to our committee members who've joined us in person and also online. Lovely to see your faces. We have no late items to introduce, so if I could have motion for the adoption of the agenda for today. Moved by Alexandria, seconded by Tammy. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. We have one set of minutes from our January 14th meeting. Does anyone have any amendments that they would like to add for those minutes? Otherwise, I'll take a motion for the adoption of those minutes. Moved by Sean, thank you. Seconded by Jocelyn. All in favor? Thank you very much. That carries. Under council communications, we had a really good meeting. Thank you to the committee members for the feedback on the Maffeo Sutton Park amenity building. I'm pleased to share that during the March 2nd regular council meeting, council adopted our motion to designate the space in the southern corner of the proposed amenity building layout as a flexible space that includes a change table, a sink, and an armchair without designating specifically what that space is for. And so I've heard from staff that that was a helpful motion, and it's got council support now. So thank you everyone for that. Kicking off our presentations for today, we have an accessibility audit update, and we have Mike Bryson, our Deputy Director of Civic Facilities, here to give us an update on how that is going. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Councillor Eastner. Hello, everyone. So I've got a short presentation just to give you an update on what's been going on with facility audits that we've been carrying on. They have been happening, and okay, is this thing working?
Yep.
Nope. Oh, there we go. Is that the first one? Okay. So I'm going to have to take a look at it this way because I didn't bring my notes with me. But so some of the initial facilities that were audited in 2023 is a bit of a history. There was, from those audits, a list of recommendations were provided and implemented over the next 2 years. We did about $82,000 worth of work in the 3 facilities that were audited. So what we did was before we started the actual renovations or changes to the facilities, we had a representative from the Rick Hansen Foundation come to the facilities and do a complete audit of those facilities. And for the 3 that were done, it was Frank Crane Arena, the Nanaimo Aquatic Center, and Bowen Park. The initial audit was done at for Frank Crane was 66.5%. The Nanaimo Aquatic Center was 65.5%, and Bowen Park was 66%. So once we had done those audits, they provided us with some grant money, and we went and did a whole bunch of different renovations to each of the facilities. And then when we were completed, they came back and re-audited the facilities. So Frank Crane went from 66.5 to 74%. Nanaimo Aquatic Center went from 65.5 to 77%. And Bowen Park went from 66 to 68%. So it takes a lot to go up a little bit because renovations, I mean, some of them were quite substantial. But I mean, it's a whole building that you're looking at. So yeah, you might not think that's a lot, but it's actually quite a bit of a jump. So we're quite proud of that. Each of these facilities will receive a plaque, and we have some plaques that have come in already. And with all of our facilities that we're auditing and all of our parks, we will receive a plaque from Rick Hansen Foundation. That is provided that the facility is certified or it meets the certification criteria. Oh, I did it again. Didn't work.
Richard, you have your hand up there. Mr. Bryson, are you willing to take a question now, or do you prefer us to wait?
Sure, I'm happy to. Yeah,
Okay,
you bet.
sure. Yeah, Richard, go ahead.
One thing that I was kind of curious about, because I had heard about this after the audit, I wasn't sure if the audits included from the perspective of like a performer in those spaces or just a guest in those spaces. So say if the sledge hockey team wants to go use the Frank Crane Arena, would the people who use wheelchairs be able to navigate into the locker room and stuff just like anyone else?
Good question. The list of recommendations that came forward from the auditor were more about accessibility for also general accessibility into the facility for anybody that might be visiting. We didn't get into any specifics like what it would take to create an atmosphere for, say, sledge hockey or some very specialized kind of sports. But those are excellent opportunities for the future that we would look into. I mean, we're always looking for, and we'll be looking for, ways to improve each of these facilities as we go forward. So this is a starting point for us. This is making sure that the facilities are as accessible as possible to the public. And then as we go along, we do our scope sheet part of the year, which is coming up here in May. You know, these kinds of things are stuff that we look at now. We're very in tune with what's going on in those facilities. So if something like that does come up, it's certainly something we can entertain. And if it's possible, put it into the project plan.
Thank you for the question, Richard. And I had a question as well, like what is the, you might have said this and I might have missed it, but what is the passing like number that you have to achieve in order to get a
60%.
60%, okay.
Yeah, gold is 80%.
Okay.
It's quite a high level. So it's in between where we are is I'd say we're, you know, very good facilities. A lot of our facilities are old. And, you know, when they were built, accessibility wasn't front and center. So to adapt them to make them to where they are now it's been a really rewarding process and very successful, I think, in a lot of ways. So we've made some really good positive changes.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting to know that 60% is the level, because I think we would all like all of our facilities to be 100% accessible, but it might not be possible. But I'm like a straight A student, so I see like 68%, and I'm like, like, is that the best we can do? But
room for improvement.
Yeah, room for improvement always.
So I mean, each of these 74, 77, and 68% doesn't mean that's where we're going to stop. Okay, we've made it to 68%. We're going to stay there because we're certified. That's just a starting point for us. We were able to. We know now what it took to get from 66% to 68%, and what's it going to take to get that to 70 and then to 75 and then up to 80 and achieve gold standard. So it's going to be a process for sure.
Appreciate that commitment. Thank you.
Oh, there we go.
I also, Jocelyn has a question as well, just before we move on here.
Okay, you bet.
Hey, just a quick response to the previous comment. I just want to say I think it's important, especially with rec facilities, to think of the complete use of the space, because I wouldn't say that a hockey arena is just like the locker rooms is just for the use of like a competing team, because if you're using hockey equipment, you have like a uniform and like all that other stuff to get on and off every time you play. And so I just like a small thing, but I'm so glad that Richard brought that up, because that is a persistent issue with any sort of entertainment and rec facilities, is that the back of house rooms tend to be the worst for accessibility. And I'm a bit surprised that like a Rick Hansen audit wouldn't catch that. And I certainly didn't think of it earlier. So thanks, Richard, for mentioning it.
Welcome, got your back.
And that's one of the nice parts about being part of this group and with you folks, is that we will catch those kinds of things for the future, as they come forward, because it's not something we might see either. So it's good to have that communication back and forth. So some of the notable projects that we've done since the last time we met, for Frank Crane, we updated all the automatic door openers. This is kind of the last part of the grant process that we went through, but these weren't done the last time we chatted. For NAC, we put an anti-slip treatment on all surfaces at the Nanaimo Aquatic Center, so that's all of our shower areas, the locker rooms, the whole deck. So what it is, it's a chemical treatment that we put onto the deck itself, and it breaks down the coefficient of friction is what it causes, and it'll make the surfaces less slippery, so people have better footing when they're walking on the decks. So people with mobility issues can be a little more sure-footed when they're on the decks. And another one, which was one we had coming for a long time, I'm glad we did it, was a sliding front entrance at Bevan Pool. So we had those manual doors that were a bit of a pain for a long, long time. So we're able to use our grant dollars to put in a sliding front entrance. So it's been very successful. I think everyone's quite happy with it. Audits to date, so these are the ones that we've completed. We've done Oliver Woods Community Center. That's both the inside of the facility and the outside of the facility, the playground area. We've completed that. Bevan Pool has been completed. The Nanaimo Aquatic Center, Bowen Complex, Frank Crane Arena, the Nanaimo Ice Center, and Kin Pool. So the ones with stars have plaques here, and the rest will have plaques on the way, so they have to be ordered and paid for, but they'll be on their way. Some of the ones that are in progress is the Roxman Stadium, Westwood Lake Beach area and washrooms, and the waterfront walkway, Maffeo Sutton Park. And Kirsty's going to talk about that one a little bit. So those are the ones that are kind of up in front right now, and we've got some other facilities that we'll be doing in the near future as well. I think they're on next. So future facility audits, Cliff McNabb Arena, the Nanaimo Museum, Military Museum, Port Theatre, Rotary Fieldhouse, Kin Hut and Centennial Building, Bevan House, the Art Gallery, Visitor Center, Animal Shelter, City Hall Services and Resource Center. And these are the facilities that we see as needing some kind of an audit, needing some attention. And we of course have a list that we think about, but we certainly want to include you folks to make sure that it's something that you feel part of and have a say in, because you're the ones that are using these facilities as well.
Tammy, you have a question.
So I just want to talk about the Aquatic Center for a second.
Okay.
I've been working with Mike and Michelle Dirksen at the Aquatic Center, trying to really make that accessible change room functional, I guess, for everybody all the time. But I know that there's a lot of times when it's down, or if the lift doesn't work, or if people can't get to the pool from it. So I know we ordered that. It's a Riften Blue Wave shower trolley, basically to transport people to the pool from the change table. But the change room itself is really too small for a full-size wheelchair plus 2 caregiver attendants to actually function in that room. So I'm hoping that we can get that wall that connects it to the next change room, something done with that, or a flip-down change table in that room, just so that it's easier to access with a wheelchair and caregivers. And I know that the NAC is going through a big HVAC. It'll be shut, will it be shut down kind of thing when they're doing that kind of thing? So is that some work that can be done at that time, same time?
Certainly look at it. We've looked at this before, and the only issue with that wall that in question is it's a load-bearing wall. So we have to be careful on how we demolish it. So it can be done, and we're ahead of that a little bit now. So I know Steve, we've met Steve from our one of our carpenters. He did a bunch of work on it, and so we've, I think we'll just continue on with that. But that was all that work's been laid out. And I think there was also, you wanted to have a bank of lockers moved as well, so that the beds could be moved in and out easier.
Yeah, when we have to use that mesh bed to pull it out of and it's so limited, you have to really get it at the right angle to get it out the door, and then it smashes into that, you're getting into that locker, so that would be, it would be really helpful for getting wheelchairs in and out of that accessible area if there weren't as many lockers right there, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, we did look at it, and we do have a lengthy shutdown coming up, so I'll make sure, one, that we can do it because there's a load-bearing wall, and what does that look like? Does it have to be framed in and shored up and stuff? But I totally understand. They're 2 small rooms where you could have one big room. It would make a lot more sense.
It would, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And Richard, you have a question as well? Okay, Richard, I'm going to put you on the speakers list, and now
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yep.
Thanks. So in regards to the updates, I've like a couple small suggestions. At both like the aquatic center and like the well, I guess that mostly at Bevan and Roxman Stadium and such. I think having some like yellow paint or high contrast like colors around like the railings and bars and the stairs area. I feel like there's a lot of inconsistency when it comes to like the stadium for use as like a runner and so I have troubles like say at the side of the track, for instance, because the bar is the exact same color as the track, and I've tripped over that a couple times. And like the bars themselves up to the stadium are like extremely dark. So there's like some very small like high contrast or like high reflective tape stuff that can be done to also improve like people's vision in like the low lighting areas, even within Bevan too. Because I feel like there's a couple steps up to the gym that also don't have like that high contrast edging. And then at Bevan itself, in the complex, a person who uses a wheelchair can't go up to the performing stages area. And so because like often a lot of people with disabilities are more creative to try and make money and such, I know someone who specifically wanted to perform on that stage, and then they learned that they could only perform at the base of the stage while everyone else in their band was on the stage, so it was really awkward. So I think like some sort of ramp should be able to get put in there, especially to make it a universally accessible kind of area.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback, Richard.
I appreciate that. I have a question for you, Richard. As far as the tape goes, you mentioned putting some reflective or contrasting tape. Is there a specific color? Because we have done some of our poles in some of our facilities where there's poles under awning and whatever, and we've used different colors of tape. Is there a specific color that works best?
Well, contrasting whatever the environment is kind of the key. So like contrast is key for low vision users or anyone at night. So yellow, reflective yellow is nice. And reflective like white if it's any brighter. But I know just anything that will contrast whatever the cement is, you know, like if you're having dark cement, like a white color is a good contrast, but yellow is like, I think a higher a contrast at night too, and during the day. So it's just it's dependent on the environment itself. Like having black stairs, putting white edging might look nicer and make it less industrial if you're trying to steer away from that. So it's dependent on the space. It depends for aesthetics.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Onwards. So some of the audits include the areas that are done, as well as a list of recommended recommendations for consideration. From that list of recommendations, projects will be scheduled for completion once recommendations have been completed. This is talking about the facilities that would be audited. Sorry. Once recommendations have been completed, the facility will be re-audited for comparison. So we're following the same model that we did with the first three facilities. We'll have them audited, do the recommended renovations and changes, and then have them re-audited so that we can see make sure that we're on the right path. The facilities, have reached the certified level. A plaque will be ordered for display in each facility. And they're quite nice. I have one here. Did I skip Oliver Woods?
It's a little delayed.
No, it is too. Let's go. Okay. So some of the recommendations: Oliver Woods Community Center. This is the one that reached 69.6%. Add cane detectable features and color contrast markings to the underside of staircases to eliminate overhead hazards. So, like you were saying, Richard, that goes in line with that. Upgrade the wayfinding signage. We're seeing that's pretty much a common theme in all of our facilities. Blade signage, raised braille or raised signs and so people can read it with have vision issues. Provide a mirror made of safety glass to the rear of the elevator. So folks with mobility issues, they're in a chair can back out and see where they're going. Provide power-operated doors at universal washroom. And add color contrasted strips to the concrete pillars under the canopy to increase visibility. Some of the long-term suggestions that were made: install power-operated doors in all interior doors, ensure all sinks and counters and kitchenettes have sufficient knee clearance, install sound dampening materials throughout the facility, provide an adult change table in change rooms and universal washrooms, install emergency call systems in the washrooms, improve lighting in the outdoor seating areas, playground, and along the trail. And it says long-term, but some of these we can do as part of our normal maintenance operations planning. A lot of them are pretty easy. The Nanaimo Ice Center, this is one that was recently audited. Some of the recommendations were add access aisles for designated accessible parking spaces, upgrade the wayfinding signage, repair or replace all self-closing mechanisms on doors, and we've done that, I believe, already. Relocate the toilet flush buttons in the universal washroom to the transfer side, and provide vertical grab bars for at least one urinal in each men's washroom. And that's another one we see is most of our facilities need an upgrade in grab bars throughout the facility. There we go. Long-term recommendations for the Nanaimo Ice Center. Install power-operated doors for all interior doors. Widen the office door and washroom doors to at least 860 millimeters to accommodate individuals using wheeled mobility devices. Provide a height-adjustable reception desk or multiple desks at different heights. Install adult change table in universal washroom and dressing rooms. Install visual fire alarms throughout the facility. Is this one? Before Kirsty does that, I'm gonna. So we have received a couple of plaques. We received 3 plaques for the facilities that were done before. So I just want to show you what they look like. We're going to be putting those up in those facilities very shortly.
Awesome. Jocelyn, I did see that you had your hand up earlier. Did you have a question that was on hold?
Yeah, I put it down just because we moved ahead, but I was just saying that the in the Bevan Social Center, I think it was where Richard's feedback was about the stage, and because that's a space made available for rental, it also means that people are using, like, I've attended several like craft shows and home shows in that space, and they put a bunch of booths up there in the stage area. So it's not just that it's a performance space, although that on its own should be accessible. And I wonder if having one of those movable lifts might be a solution if a built-in one isn't possible, because a ramp at that height might be difficult. But anyway, we're not getting into the actual solutions, but just thought I'd share.
Good point.
We like actual solutions.
I know National Seating and Mobility actually sells a ramp that would be able to fit there. I did the legwork.
Okay, thank you for that feedback.
So this is the plaques that will be going up in the facilities, and hopefully the folks online can see it. That's what they look like.
Okay,
they're quite nice.
Circular plaque. It's blue. It says Rick Hansen Foundation Accessibility Certification, and I can see that it has Braille along the bottom.
It does.
And at the top, it's got the date 01/2026 and version 4.0 being that's the version of the accessibility audit that it is up to date with.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So it's a good way of showcasing the facility that's certified with Rick Hansen Foundation. It's something to be proud of, I think, and we are.
Yeah,
so
thank you
this
for all
one's
your
going to
work.
Oliver Woods with Laura, and we've got some more, and we'll have all of our facilities before long. All of our facilities will have one of these soon, and hopefully some gold ones.
Yeah, one
For Councilor
day.
Eastmere.
Gold. Mike, gold.
80% gold.
80% is the gold threshold.
Blue is the 60 to 70?
Certified. So there's only certified and
Oh, you got certified and then gold.
Yeah, certified at 60 and then gold at 80. Yeah, cool.
60 and 80 is certified.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Christy.
So I'm just adding on to Mike's presentation because he's given you the perspective of the facility audits, and I'm here to represent the lens that we're using for the park and open space audits.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I forgot that Sean had also had a question. Sean, did you want to ask your question now?
I can wait for the end.
Okay, thank you.
So you might remember that about a year ago, Charlotte and I came forward with about 30 options for parks and open spaces to focus and prioritize on for our audits. And the committee at the time shortlisted the parks that are on the screen right now as the priorities that you felt we should audit first. So the waterfront walkway was actually one that you brought reprioritized in the last fall. And I'll talk more about why we're focusing on Maffeo Sutton Park in a minute, but that one is the first one that we are launching and have had, we have a consultant engaged right now and have done some preliminary work to hopefully complete that within the next few months. The next priority identified was the Westwood Lake Trail System. So Mike mentioned that he is working on auditing the First Beach improvements that have were completed last summer. But the focus identified by the committee last fall was also the loop trail, the perimeter loop trail, the 5-kilometer trail, as well as I believe the 12-kilometer single track trail that attaches to that for adaptive riding. And so that is on our list to audit this year in 2026. As Mike mentioned, he has completed the Oliver Woods grounds in tandem with the facility, which is fantastic. And then the next ones that we would be launching, and Mike is also undertaking the stadium district as well. And then the next ones that we'd be looking at moving forward, probably in 2027, would be Neck Point Park, Harewood Centennial Park, Beaufort Park, and then I don't know when the grounds are scheduled for Bowen Complex, but probably a tandem project there too.
I haven't done those ones.
So sometime in the future, but we are making progress on this list of priorities. Oops.
Excellent.
I'm sorry, one more slide. Can't get it to go. Are you able to isolate the map?
There's slides in the agenda, so there's the art audit. Do you want probably?
I've got them printed, so I'll just read them. Sure. So as Mike mentioned, with the Oliver Woods grounds, the highlighted improvement areas were improving lighting in the playground and also the trail system on the edge of the parking lot. And I think this is a really interesting one because when the facility was built in 2008, the focus was on sustainability and ensuring that the facility became LEED certified, but people weren't really a focus. And so it shows how our community has shifted in the last 15 years and how now the needs of people and the users are really the focus. So that's something that we'll be budgeting for in our capital planning, as well as adding additional outdoor seating and looking at seating also along the trail system. You'll also probably be interested to note that the playground itself also is reaching the end of its life. And we do have in our capital plan reimagining of that playground as an inclusive play space, similar to what is at Maffeo Sutton Park, but with an Oliver Woods focus. And I believe that is budgeted for 2030. So that is already something in the works. Also, as Mike mentioned, we're making progress on the Sir Oxman Stadium audit, which I believe is the Plaza Stadium District and over to the track and field area?
No, the baseball. It'd be the baseball stadium building itself, would be the new wash cars and bleacher area, that part of the facility, so.
So still more to do when with the Q side and the Plaza in?
Yeah, didn't incorporate that just because it's too large. Have to
Okay.
break that out into another project.
Tammy?
the district, the stadium district, does that include the parking?
We hadn't put parking in that, in my side of it, I'm more facilities, but parking,
So, okay, because the Special Olympics is held there, and also the school district adapted track meets are always held at the track there, and there's never, like, wheelchair access kind of thing is, especially for the parking. The wheelchair parking is really limited.
the new parking lot, I believe there's, you're talking about the new parking lot?
Not at the pool, right?
No, in the stadium, it's all been paved now, repaved, and I believe there's, I don't know how many stalls there are, accessibility, so but it was all done with that in mind, I believe. So there's a lot of breakdowns or cut downs on the curbs for accessibility that way, and with, raised, what do you call it?
Wider.
No, sorry, to warn you, there's a curb ahead sort of thing. As well as there's, I believe, at least 6 stalls. I might be wrong, Tammy, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But it's all.
If you're referring to the tactile things, do you mean those like pads?
Thank you, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Didn't get that.
But there's definitely potential for more scope to include the plaza, seating along the plaza, the whole entrance sequence over to the stadium district over time. And then lastly, in Matthew Sutton Park, I'm sorry we don't have the map. Oh, we found it, great. So you had asked for the waterfront walkway as a priority location. And again, scope, we had to contain the scope for our first section of the study. So we've limited it to what you can see on the screen, which is the Lions Great Bridge heading over to the Queen Elizabeth Promenade on the north. And then finishing at the south at Georgia Park, where you ramp up to a bridge, an elevated bridge leading towards the Sail public art feature in front of Pacifica, and including right to the water's edge from the side of the highway right to the water's edge. And in this case, we actually have included both docks as well for context, which are not controlled or owned by the city of Nanaimo, but we know that they're public spaces that the users would want to access as well. And we'll be sharing the recommendations with our partners to help keep a fluid open space along the waterfront. I think it's probably interesting for this committee to know that I did I do a preliminary walkthrough with the consultant at Maffeo Sutton Park. Arriving in the parking lot and from the bus, we came right as if we were coming in from our car or the bus, and what would our experience be throughout the park. And these are in no way official recommendations, but the first thing that the consultant mentioned was the sewage treatment smell and the smells that you experience on a waterfront.
Yes.
And the other comments that he was making were around the parking, the EV parking, how you would pay for parking if you were staying longer than 3 hours, and wayfinding to the front of the washroom building in a centralized kind of hub in the Spirit Square Plaza, which is one thing that we're, as you know from the meeting last month, we're working towards in the amenity building design. He will be looking at the washrooms as they are now, as well as doing a revised audit when the new washrooms are constructed. He is including the inclusive playground as well, because it's now 5 years old and there could be improvements that are relevant to that space as well. As I mentioned, both docks are included, and then we also noted a number of issues with surfacing, and I'm happy to let you know that part of our work plan this year is working towards some safety issues in the pavers in the Spirit Square, where there's some tree interface issues. Roots are looking for water and they're lifting pavers, and that's actually already underway. So if those are noted as we expect in the recommendations, we're already making some progress towards those. And then like with Mike's, any recommendations that are brought up through this process, we'll be budgeting for them in future years to help make the improvements in the spaces.
Fantastic.
And that's the conclusion I have for the parks and open space audits.
Thank you so much. I do have Sean with a question, and Richard also has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. And exciting to see that places are meeting, many places are meeting that certification baseline of 60% or higher. My question is about the actual tangible goals and whether that's been something directed to staff or something that's actually noted that it has been a direction from council that our goal is to make all spaces, it's not going to be 100%, but like to make all spaces at that 80% standard within 20 years or whatever a reasonable timeline is. Because I think the risk of not having something like, one, I think the percentages are pretty inscrutable. Like you can show me a 69.6% and say, and I believe, Mike, that it can be an incremental, it can be a huge amount of work to get from 69 to 71%, depending on the thing that bumped it up. So it might have been a huge infrastructure upgrade to get there. Someone just looking at it isn't going to know that. And also, like, I think because the regulations are so vast, I mean, there's thousands of things within the Rick Hansen Foundation certification guidelines. So no one person, well, some people, Mike, but like not a ton of people are going to be able to be like, oh yeah, cool. So we just need to do this, this, and this. So I think it would be helpful for me, for sure, and possibly for the community to know as we say these places are certified, but what the actual goals are to reach levels of certification. So if the city is, if council is saying that we want to achieve gold at all of our recreation facilities, or we want to achieve gold at at 80% of our recreation facilities over X period of time. So I'm not sure if anything like that has come up, but that is a question I'm asking if it has, and if it hasn't, can it be?
That's a good question.
Darcy, is that something you know the answer to? Because I haven't heard, I guess, a goal, a benchmark that we're looking for, other than new facilities, that they obviously have more potential to have higher certification right off the bat. The retrofits can be very costly, and I don't know if you've got a benchmark that we're striving for at this time.
Through the chair to member Sean. I don't believe that we actually have a benchmark goal, but I know that our staff strive to try to reach the highest possible percentage we can, and we're always looking for feedback on ways that we can increase it. But it's not actually a bad idea for us to think about what that goal might be. I did note when Kirsty mentioned earlier how facilities were built to a LEED standard previously, and that was around environmental, and that's still very important, but what it did do was leave out as Kirsty said, the human element to some things. And so where we've seen ourselves moving away from some of that and putting more of our emphasis on accessibility, it is interesting, and I certainly would love to see some gold plaques in our facility sometime soon.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad question. I think it's a good question and
So
a good idea.
So is that something within this committee's purview, is to request that council set some benchmarks, work with staff, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I think what we could do is draft a motion that's like the accessibility committee recommends that council endorse a policy where we aim to achieve an 80% accessibility standard within our rec facilities.
Yeah, or that some benchmark be set. I'm not fixed on it being 80%. That would be delightful. It may not be possible without tearing some things down just based on their age. But I think that my ask would be that council work with staff and Mike to figure out what a benchmark could be, and then bring that back to the committee. However, that would be phrased as a motion. Thank you.
I think it might be maybe prudent to have the motion read something along the lines that council directs staff to come back with a report that outlines various options for achievable benchmarks. And I mean, we can work on the wording on that, but that it'd be a staff report first that could come forward, and then it would give staff the chance to do a little bit more of an in-depth deep dive into it. Would that be okay?
Yeah, and I think obviously there's going, like, immediately, there would be large financial ramifications with that, and like, I think you're identifying that generally we are trying to up our accessibility in the facilities, but yeah, like, why stop at the 60% getting it certified? I would like to see it higher, and I think 80% to me feels like a bare minimum, but yeah, if that's gold, then that would be.
Yeah, and I think the benchmarks demonstrate that it's an ongoing process, that you know, in the case of two of these facilities, the audit said that they're already certified, but that doesn't mean that the city's done, right? As Mike
Yeah.
says, that there's a commitment to continuing to make them more accessible. So I think demonstrating and then communicating those benchmarks back to the community is a useful way to demonstrate that it is certified, but we're not finished. We're still doing X, Y, Z.
I have something to reflect on this.
Yep, Richard, you're next on my speaker list here. So, yeah, before we officially move that motion, Richard, if you have something to add here.
Yeah, specifically in regards to the benchmark comment or motion, one thing to keep in mind is that Rick Hansen, they actually update the standards every few years because the technology improves or new innovations happen. So while a building could get scored 1% 1 year, the standards can change 5 years down the road as the assessment kind of criteria also get updated. And that's happened, I think, several times over the last 10 years that the amount of things that they encompass in a single assessment has changed.
Yeah, that's a strong point. Thank you for that, Richard. Jocelyn and Linda, I also see your hands. Jocelyn?
Mine was actually also, my hand was up for a separate motion that I wanted to put forward.
Okay.
Mine was
Richard, I'm going to come back to
not related to this.
Okay, yours is unrelated. Okay, Linda?
I just wanted to say that 80% is hard to get at. It's doesn't sound like much to Hillary. We want, it's like, what's the other 20%? But Richard's absolutely correct. Those standards keep going up and they keep getting wider. So a gold facility now will include paint colors that don't disturb autistic people or neurodivergent people. And gold is, it's sidewalks, parking lots, bathrooms, regular bathrooms. It's just the whole facility. So it is a very high standard. It's much less expensive to design it new to reach gold than it is to retrofit. So I think we should take that into consideration when we're considering any kind of benchmark. Like, there are facilities likely that we could never get to gold without demolishing them. So
Yeah,
that's all I want to say.
That's really good feedback. Thank you. And I think that staff are drafting a motion that will reflect not just a fixation on the gold idea, but the idea that we would at least set some kind of benchmark. And I think Sean's partly you mentioned like over a period of time, like in a certain number of years, but it's a acknowledgement that we can't do it immediately, but that we would have a goal that we would be working to. And I think perhaps the goal right now is just the Rick Hansen certification period, and obviously we are working towards that. But I think this is a reasonable ask. Okay.
What, Madam Chair, is that sort of capture the intent?
So right now, the motion reads that the Advisory Committee on Accessibility and Inclusiveness recommend that council direct staff to bring forward a report regarding options for setting benchmark goals for achieving accessible recreation facilities. Sean?
I would consider taking out the word achieving because it's a journey, not a destination.
Goals, okay, setting benchmark goals for accessible recreation facilities. I wonder how that differs from us trying to achieve the Rick Hansen certification, which we seem to be trying to do through the audits. Would it just be that we're trying to get the 60% to get the certification, or?
Well, I think the 60% just to, if the goal is just to get the certification, then it seems like most new facilities would probably do that without much intervention from staff or the city to actually make things more accessible. So any new thing you build probably is going to hit somewhere around 60% just because of modern design standards. So if the goal is to do better than whatever the 60% standard is, then that could be a goal that goes to council. That just demonstrates that we're not happy to just have the plaque, because I think what I would urge to get away from is that the plaque is a sign that we've accomplished something. The plaque is an indicator that the city is committed to creating more accessible spaces, and I think everyone in this room agrees with that. So if the goal is to create more accessible spaces, that is a moving target that will change over time.
Yes.
And so even getting to a number of 70%, if in 5 years the certifications or the standards change that put us below that, then the city has the staff have a directive to do the work, to do the things to bring it back up to whatever that benchmark is.
Okay, I'm going to go to Ms. Osborne.
Thanks. I just want to note that what we're benchmarking with right now is the Rick Hansen Foundation accessibility. And so, and noting, as has been spoken by Richard, that Rick Hansen does upgrade on a regular basis to maintain where the current standards are with technology advancements, et cetera. So I think it would make sense for us to reference the Rick Hansen criteria, and the other point as well is that Mr. Bryson and his team are certified assessors. So they have the ability to go around and assess based on those criteria. So I do feel that we should consider having the benchmark relevant to the Rick Hansen criteria.
Yes, I feel like that is implied, but benchmark goals in relation to or related to the Rick Hansen Foundation.
We could just add Rick Hansen benchmark goals, or?
Sure, yeah, that sounds good, setting Rick Hansen Foundation benchmark goals. Or like as benchmark goals as per the Rick Hansen Foundation standards. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. As per the Rick Hansen Foundation standards. Is that feeling better? Okay, does anyone, are we liking the wording of this? Linda?
I'd like to see the word recreation removed. Because if the city is building anything, it should be accessible, yeah.
Good one. Okay, that said, Sean, are you moving this motion?
Yes. Do I need to say it out loud?
You don't. You can just say that you're moving this.
I am moving this.
Is someone seconding this motion? Alexandria is seconding this motion. Would anyone like to speak to it before we vote on it? I see Richard and Jocelyn, you still have your hands up, but I think that is for the previous time when you said you have something on a different topic. So, okay, not seeing any other hands. I would call for a vote. Richard, are you saying something?
My motion that I was going to put forward might throw a wrench into this, so I'm not sure if I should bring it up.
Well, we've done a bunch of work on this one, so I think let's do this one and then see where that gets us, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor of sending this motion to council for consideration?
Yes.
Okay, I see hands and hear yes, so that carries unanimously. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for the presentation on this. Richard, you have something that you want to add?
Yeah, since it was identified that the audits did not include the perspective of performers slash athletes that were like focused in the space, I am the wrench that I was referring to was if we get the auditors to go through that space on the back end, would that cause us to then have our score plummet down because it wasn't seen as a priority before? My idea is to actually include the from the side of like stage access and like rink access from the side of people using that space. Since full inclusion isn't just watching on the sidelines, it is being able to perform, being able to be the highlight, being able to be the focus.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Okay, I'm seeing staff ready to jump in here. Thank you for this input.
Thank you, Richard. And I really appreciate the term, completing the facility and looking at the perspective from users, whether they're participants and or performers. I think we'll always look at that perspective when we're going through facilities. And Mike and team can look through the Rick Hansen Foundation criteria to determine if that's in fact reaching that level or not. But we'll follow the Rick Hansen criteria. But we'll always look at the complete facility concept in our evaluations. Did you have more to add to that at all, Mr. Bryson?
No, pretty much what you said is correct. I mean, when we have these facilities audited, there's a whole list of areas that we can modify, change, or adjust to make life easier. And we try and do the ones that we think will have the biggest impact to the general population. But there's also lots of items that come out of those audits that are like parking lots and complete renovations of washrooms and that type of thing. We're actually met with the folks from the museum, and we're doing an audit in their facility because they want to do complete renovation of their washroom, but they want to know how to do it. So there's that desire, and those projects are out there. A lot of them are quite costly. So we do have a budget that we have every year that we can put towards these projects. We just want to try and make sure that, one, that the facilities that we audit, hopefully that they pass and they're certified. And then that gives us our benchmark to go forward and try and make them that much better and more accessible. And then again, once we've done that, to revisit those facilities as the facilities managers would do and see which areas they can improve on using the base list that we had from the first audit. But it's an ongoing, it's not something that'll ever stop. It's an ongoing process. And once we hit one mark, I think that's just an opportunity, an invitation to hit the next mark and try to keep getting it better and better. And you're right, Richard, it does change the criteria and the scoring with Rick Hansen changes frequently, but it's never, I think, to a negative. It's always, they look at all the different criteria that they have when it comes to doing an audit, and they'll omit ones that they feel that maybe aren't as effective and swap that out with ones that they think are more of a necessary addition to the facility. So it's an ongoing living, breathing document that we just have to keep working with. And the more facilities we have on, the more people get involved, and I think the more lenses we'll have on this project.
So what I'm hearing is it's getting incorporated, and yeah, the feedback's being heard, and it will be part of the audits for sure going forward. Okay, thank you. Jocelyn, I see your hand as well.
Thanks. I was previously just going to say that I was hoping that the Maffeo Sutton Park audit could be done in parallel with an audit during a busy event. And the reason is that I know parking is, like, accessible parking is generally, there's some formula that you use for the function of the space. But when you invite the whole city to come celebrate Canada Day or whatever, suddenly that requirement is very different, and there is, accessible parking is really only the stuff that is closest to the venue. So the need changes and really needs to be looked at that way. And I go down just on a sunny afternoon and all of the accessible parking is taken. So I just wanted to put that out there, that those needs might be different, or the assessment might be very different if it was a very busy event.
Yeah, I think that's really good feedback. Thank you.
I just wanted to speak to the last thing as well that Richard had mentioned. I think the Rick Hansen audits assessments are really important. I think it's one of the more comprehensive ways to sort of check that these public buildings are as accessible as they possibly can be. But as Richard mentioned, to find out it's been assessed as high as it has, and there's no access to the change room, like at the arena, that tells us that it just might be like a gap in terms of what we evaluate as a public part of the building and a place that should be accessible. And so I just wanted to point out that I love that for the most recent presentation, you showed the area on Maffeo Sutton Park that is going to be assessed, and the areas that you're assessing for internal use only, and the areas you'll reassess. And so I like that perspective. So we see what is going to be assessed and what has been left out, and you discuss it with us so we can point out those things like, hey, we missed this really important use of these buildings. Maybe I'm just restating what was said, but I realize that not everybody knows that there are para hockey players that have the same garb and the same need for the change rooms, and that's what we're here to help with.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. I think pointing out these gaps are certainly helpful and important, and I think needs to influence the way that we go forward with these audits. And yeah, I think it's troubling to hear that that not everyone has that access to the same space, and it's a missed spot for many of us. So I think Richard's pointed out something really helpful, and I've heard staff having conversations about this very thing, because this isn't the first time he's brought it up, and I thank you for fighting on this, Richard. It's really helpful.
Thanks. May I ask something?
Yes.
If we did audit those back areas, wouldn't that overall increase our score, or would it potentially bring it down?
I don't believe it would bring it down. It would. I would think it would bring our score up. How much I couldn't tell you, because different areas are different. Each one of the criteria in the audit has a different scoring attached to it. So I'm not sure how much that would bring it up, but it would definitely affect the score.
May I ask this second? I apologize. It was directly off of that last comment. What if we suggest recommendations when holding large events in the space, if that's even a possibility, since we rent out Maffeo Sutton Park so often?
I'm not sure I'm following.
So say if the Nanaimo Blues Festival, if they wanted to use that space, providing recommendations from staff on how to make a more inclusive blues festival or dragon boat festival.
Yep, I see Ms. Osborne ready to answer here.
Yeah, through Councillor Smith, back to Richard. I really like the idea of doing the assessment at a fulsome event like a Canada Day or a blues festival. All of the different events that function out of Maffeo Sutton Park meet with our culture and event staff prior to and go through a fulsome list of recommendations and suggestions on how to effectively run their events. So I think it's not a bad idea to go through that assessment and gather some of that information on what is helpful. We do talk to them already about parking and how to manage parking during these large-scale events. And parking at Maffeo Sutton Park is always an issue. But likely there's other things that are going to come up during that type of an assessment that we could share with the park renters and the different event holders in Maffeo and other parks throughout the community.
Okay. In the interest of time, just because we have 5 more items, even though a couple of them are short, and we have like 1 hour left, I think I would just say, like, if there's more feedback or more desire for committee members to see more action on this, like, I'm available, staff are available. We don't just have to do this during a committee meetings, but I think this has been really helpful, and I'm seeing a lot of head nodding from staff as well. So yeah, gratitude to everyone for your feedback on this. And yeah, this is why this committee is important. So thank you for this. We're gonna move on now to a presentation about the Beban Outdoor Classroom and Play Space. This is an update, and Damon Johnston, our Manager of Recreation Services, is here to give us a brief update.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for having me. Excited to be here today to showcase the work that's happened at Beban Park and the outdoor classroom and play space. I was here in November to share an update at that time. Then we had just started construction of this really fantastic, I think, inclusive space that really enhances inclusive programming for the city. And so excited to be here tonight to provide an update. And again, I think this space is really about accessibility. It supports inclusive outdoor learning for all ages and all abilities. So to start off, I'm just going to share today a little bit about what's been completed, and I am very excited to say that the project is almost 100% complete. Some of the opportunities and challenges that we faced during construction, other features that are coming next, and that includes how we're going to promote the space of the community, programming, and I'll be ending with sharing the opening event that we do have scheduled in April. And I committed to that the last time I was here, that we would make sure that the committee members were invited to the opening event. Great. So briefly, I will just share a before and after. I think it's really neat to see what this facility was like prior to these renovations. Again, as I touched on earlier, like any project, we faced some challenges, but I feel like the committee, with their feedback, I think with the construction company, the architects, the contractors, we were able to collaborate and work together when we faced something that was unforeseen and really work through that to come to a solid solution. Great, so this is the space like it was before the construction happened. And again, really it lacked accessible features, just even accessing the site. If a person needed to use a mobility device or a wheelchair, the site really just wasn't conducive to supporting that type of access.
So concrete, dirt,
Concrete,
tree
dirt,
roots sticking out.
We've got trees. The site itself was very underutilized in general. It wasn't maximizing the full size of the site. The new design does that. But it's really plain, and again, didn't have very many, sensory or nature-based learning features like it does now. And again, it just really wasn't suited for inclusive programming or really any programming. The thing about this space, though, it is used all the time, almost every single day. The after-school program that operates at Beban Park uses this space. Children would make the best of it, as they always do, but now we've got a really, really, I think, premier facility that the city can be proud of, and that really supports all types of different use. So before and after, so this is now the facility is almost complete. We have done the soft launch and opened the facility for some use. So as I mentioned earlier, the After School Kids program is accessing the space and using it for play.
So there's like a gated entry with a pergola over the top. There's some raised boardwalk sections, cordoned off sport court area, seating for on benches, and then some like play logs for the kids to climb around on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Councillor Eastmere. That's a great description of the pictures. So we've added a flexible outdoor classroom area, which is shown in the upper center picture. And again, open space. It's covered with concrete tiles, so accessible for wheelchair devices and other mobility devices. There are log features there which can be moved around and relocated and configured in certain ways to support whatever type of instructional program is going on in there. Inclusive play elements, so there are a lot of stumps and logs and raised platforms, all accessible with ramps, and then there's an open play space which was expanded to support active play. Mostly hockey and basketball is going on there, but again, it could be really any type of active play or active game. And I think really what's really cool about this space is that it supports structured and unstructured play, and is really conducive to that. Yes.
I see a question from Jocelyn.
Hi, just a quick one. It looks amazing, and I just I want to come to the opening because it looks so cool. Playground openings are my favorite. I just had a question, and maybe our members of the committee from the CDC have more insight here. But I know a lot of for kids that use walkers, they're using like mobility devices, but they're ambulatory. I just wanted to know, like, do they have the ability to get on the is it wood chip area? I feel like I can see one area on the top left-hand picture that looks like there's a level option to get in that wood chip space, but the one with the climbing logs and stuff, like, could someone who's ambulatory but using mobility devices other than a chair get in there?
Yeah, so I'll sort of describe the best I can to answer your question. So as you enter the pergola space, there's the long Gabion wall, which is a wooden structure filled with rocks. And then above that is a large chipped sort of open play area. And so when you enter the pergola, if you go to the left, you could access that with an assisted mobility device. It is sort of flush with the entrance, so you could access that space. Your second question in terms of the space where the what we call the log tangle is located, that would be more challenging, and I think there are barriers to accessing that particular space because the classroom and the seating design I will say are sort of in the way, but maybe you could pass through if it was wide enough that the two benches that are shown in the bottom right-hand picture. Currently there's a stump there, but that stump is not permanent. It's
okay, that's what I wondered, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought maybe that if that was movable, then that, someone who could walk stably enough would have the option, because I think there's, the whole idea of risky play and outdoor play is as important for kids with mobility devices, and they're not all wheelchairs. So
yes, absolutely. I will say that space is on an incline. Whether or not it meets the sort of 9% grade, I don't know that. We would have to look at that, but it is an incline from the classroom area to the log tangle, as shown in the bottom right picture.
thank you.
Great, you're welcome. Before I move on, I'll just speak to some of the challenges that we faced during construction. And as I've touched on, with any project like this, there's always things that are unforeseen. The site posed some challenges right off the bat, just given the slope that is quite steep and quite short from the sidewalk to the edge of the building. The cherry trees, as beautiful as they are, and we were able to keep 4 of the 5 cherry trees, but they have very large raised root structures. And so when we got to design, the platform that you see in the, again, bottom right picture, it had to be adjusted to height because we couldn't lower it because there was a root in the way. And so that changed the slope of the accessible ramp to get to that platform. So in order to work around that, what we had to do was build a secondary ramp from that platform directly off of the sidewalk, which meets the building code. It's actually less than 9% grade. I think it's like 5% grade. So we were able to work together and come up with a collaborative solution, and I think it turned out really, really well.
Good job. Thank you very much. Richard, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I actually noticed that little like change when I first walked through that space. I got to actually get a walkthrough while it was being constructed at night, and when I spoke to the builders, they were all like working on it so much more seriously because of how they knew like how it was going to impact the community, and it gave them a large amount of pride. And so I want to express that, like, I think it gives everyone in this room and online a lot of pride seeing this type of project come to fruition as well. So I want to commend.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Delighted to hear that. And we had the same experience on the project management side, working with our contractor. They were great. Another fairly significant change to design that we encountered during construction was the staircase design. Initially, there was supposed to be sort of call it 2 branches of the stairway that went into the play space and then one directly down towards the door of the facility entering the outdoor classroom. And again, given the slope of the space and the sort of trajectory of the stairs and the rise and run of the stairs, we had to delete the left-hand side of the staircase. But again, that posed an opportunity for us to expand the gabion wall. And that is shown right on the sort of bottom left picture, just kitty corner to the hockey net. And so we were able to, again, come up with a solution and expand the seating there that I think works quite well for the space and honors the design concept. Great, and then the committee had a lot of great feedback around the accessibility of the Willow Tunnel that was in the initial design. As we got into the project, we realized that the Willow Tunnel, given the location, the lack of sunlight, the competing tree roots from the cherry tree, that the Willow Tunnel wasn't potentially going to be successful in rooting. So it was removed from the design. But again, it opened up another opportunity to bring in another feature that I think is accessible and has high play value. Great. So this is a really, really cool project. So we are working with our culture and events team, with our urban art roster to create some public art for the space. So these characters are the memory makers, and there's actually 5 of them. They are designed by Trisilla Neves, and again, they're from our urban design art roster. We went out to the community to seek public engagement, to do a bit of a voting contest on picking 3 of the 6 characters, and we've done that. These characters are about 4 or 5 feet, and they represent animals blending with nature. They're very interactive, and again, bring play value. There will be QR codes, so you can actually scan the QR code, and they come to life on your device. And we have picked 3. We had a contest, as I said, online. We had it at the Bebin Family Day and 50th anniversary, and people could kind of choose their top 3. And I'm pleased to share the top 3. Wait for it. Was Lily. So Lily is on the far left and represents a bird, and it has antlers, and so it is a blend of animals. So Lily was one of the successful winners. And then Pepper, which is the blue bird character, second to right next to Lily. And then the one character that's not on here who was also a winner, and I actually have all the images here and I'm happy to share that with the committee if you'd like to see those, is Benji. That whole package, Laura, is all the different characters. That's the next one in the next page. Yeah.
Oh, the insect.
Okay, Lily, Pepper, and Benji. Benji is a
Lily, Pepper, and Benji. Yeah.
deer-like
They're endangered species, aren't they?
fairy fellow.
Yeah. These characters, they're actual real, aren't they real endangered species?
I
Bird, I think it was.
Okay, so just in the interest of time,
Yeah.
we're super excited about
Yeah.
these being selected.
Great. So just moving along to the next slide here, these are some features that are coming soon. So to replace the Willow Tunnel will be a wooden play feature, like a playhouse covered area. The top left feature is a wooden xylophone. So again, bringing musical learning into the space as well, very interactive. Bottom left is a storage shed, so we see that having tables and chairs in the space to support different activities and events. And then a chalkboard, of course, because that gives somewhere for the children to write with their chalk, and it's not on the ground with sidewalk chalk, as much as we see the high play value there.
Love that.
Great, and then I'll just wrap up quickly with promotion and programming. So it is our intention to develop a short promotional video to showcase the space. That would be available on the city's website and city's social media sites. And then a marketing campaign to get the space out there in the community so people are aware of it. It is a rentable space. And then programming. So currently we're planning summer camps. We'll use this. Spring break camps will use this. After school kids care is using this as well. And then of course, as I touched on earlier, rentals. And then finally, just to wrap up, please save the date, opening event, April 15th, of course, Bevan Park, 3 to 4:30. There'll be light refreshments, some words from Mayor and Council, and it'll be a great chance for you to tour around the facility and have a closer look at it. And we picked April 15th because we're hoping the cherries will be in full blossom.
And Legislative Services will be sending out a calendar invite to all the committee members for this. Richard, do you have a question? You just muted your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks. I want to suggest having some like shrubbery or something to block sound from the highway, and possibly additional lighting on the area, because I noticed when I went through in the evening when it was a lot darker, like the area is not lit, and that area is fairly problematic currently because of the whole encampment 100 meters away, 200 meters away. So it might help improve like feelings of safeness around in that area too.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback.
Thank you very much through the chair to Richard. We'll take that feedback into account and see if that's something that we can add to the facility down the road. But great point. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for that presentation. Hopefully see you all there on Wednesday, April 15th from 3 till 4:30. Next up, we have a transportation bylaw update. Traffic and Highway Bylaw 5000. Presentation by Jamie Rose, our Manager of Transportation. Thank you for being here, Mr. Rose.
Good afternoon. I have to be honest, this is a pretty dry topic, but here we go.
Not Traffic and Highway Bylaw 5000.
Yeah, I know. It just sparks joy for everyone. So Bylaw 5000 is a transportation or traffic and highway bylaw that we use to effectively govern any actions that take place in our roadways. So, it's one of the tasks in the integrated action plan that we've been offered or assigned to do as part of all of the other updates that have taken place over the last few years. And really, as we're starting to get into it, it's highlighting sort of, on the positive note, some of the amazing changes that are taking place. On the other side of things, how outdated our bylaw is. And so, yeah, it's essentially the sort of city's extension of the Motor Vehicle Act from the province. It is what governs all of our actions in the roadway. Does not affect or does not give us power to regulate moving violations. So speed limits or speed limit enforcements, those are still things that are under the Motor Vehicle Act, but we do have tools within the bylaw to kind of tinker with those and move them about. But there is a little bit of a separation there. Really, this conversation is just the starting point. We're just getting into this, and really this is planting the seeds for a future discussion, but here to hear any off-the-cuff kind of comments or thoughts on what we should be thinking about as we go into this. Also answering any questions about what it may be or what it may not be. So really, this is an open table at this point.
Awesome. I see Sean and Tammy have questions. Sean?
Yeah, so just this is within the city limits specifically, so anything else is Ministry of Transportation, right? Anything outside of the city limits is done through Ministry of Transportation, and also including the major highways. So City of Nanaimo doesn't do that, but anything that's not a major highway or outside of the city limits.
Yeah, so this bylaw captures city roads within the city limits. It does not capture the Parkway. The TCH Terminal, Nickel, Stewart Ave, those are a little bit odd too, because what it covers is everything from the curb to the property line. It doesn't cover within the curb lines.
So I think the thing that probably comes up the most is how people might advocate for crossings or traffic calming measures. I shouldn't say traffic control, but like in places where I know you can't regulate speed, but the city does and can put calming measures into place on various roads, and we've seen that on Wallace Street and elsewhere. So then how do staff prioritize where calming measures go in, and how does the community advocate for that? Because I'm sure everyone would like to see more traffic calming, but what is the process to decide whether it's warranted or not?
So I think that to prioritize those things, that's almost an in-between step between something like city plan and then the bylaw. So within that sort of gray areas where we have things like our pedestrian prioritization tool that we developed a few years ago. We also have traffic calming guidelines that were developed quite a while ago, but we still use to this day because it's still a very good guiding document to highlight, when you should be doing something, and then what are the possibilities. And so we actually have quite a bit of information on our website, either under walking or under traffic calming, and so that will help to kind of inform what those processes look like. We've had I feel like I've had a lot of questions recently about how the community can advocate for changes to those. And my comment or feedback is, when we're developing the process, once the process is cast, it's pretty important for us to maintain that so that we're always evaluating things against the same criteria, and we're not kind of tipping the scales one way or the other outside of that. So I think that as I say, the traffic calming document was prepared quite a while ago, and I think that we do have some aspirations to get into that a little bit this year. It'll be further into the year. The pedestrian prioritization one is still a fairly fresh one, fairly applicable. So that one probably won't be coming back around too soon. Is that sort of?
Tammy and then Richard.
Hello. So I got feedback from Nicole Sugiyama, who can't be here today, and she wanted to bring this up. about parking of vehicles overhanging like sidewalks, like especially like trailer hitches and like trailer, just extended cab. Like, is it where the wheels are? Is it the very furthest back spot of the vehicle? Does it include the trailer hitch? Like, it could really impede like a power chair or something from getting around it. Yeah.
It's a good question. I don't think that there is an explicit detail in the bylaw as to what that, like where the benchmark is.
Like where
I
the end
think-
of the vehicle ends, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I think that intuitively say what is the extent of the vehicle? And so, if you have that hitch sticking out, it's a little bit gray. Like, is that what you would enforce against if that was what was intruding into a clearance for a fire hydrant? Probably not. But if it's something that's projecting into a sidewalk, that probably is something that's affecting the use of the sidewalk. So there may be a little bit of discretion there. I think one thing that immediately brings to my mind is, how was the space designed? Because if it was designed in a manner that a vehicle can project over a sidewalk or into a bike lane or something like that, then it probably wasn't designed correctly. And so, yeah.
And then the other one was parking near, like in front of or overhanging the curb cuts.
Okay. So bylaw 5000 does have language in it that speaks to how close you can park to, you can park to an intersection or a crosswalk. And so that's typically where the curb cuts are found. So I think, I should know this, but it's either 6 meters or 9 meters from a crosswalk. And so vehicles, and that's actually for visibility reasons. It's not actually for just simple mobility ability or access. So maybe I'm a little bit curious where an example of that would be.
I think maybe there are some curb cuts that aren't at an intersection.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So again, I would be curious why the curb cut was put there in the first place, and if the intent.
Probably passenger like crossing, right? But you can't step down if you're in a wheelchair.
Driveways?
Driveways would also have a clearance from the bylaw. I think, and then there
2
are a couple
meters.
that I can think of, ones that are in the middle of a block, but they were never really supported with adjacent accessible parking regulations. So there's sort of an inconsistent application, and kind of goes back to that. If it's designed to have the curb cut there, then it should be designed to also sort of coach the vehicle to be parked suitably.
Yeah, and some curb cuts have yellow painted curbs. Do you know what I mean? Where you're
Okay.
not supposed to park, right? But probably not all of them.
Yeah, I suspect that that's consistently, inconsistently applied.
But if we notice these things, we can take photos of them and pass
Absolutely.
them on through the mayor and council email address as well as to Public Works. And
To be honest, my preferred path would be to the transportation info email address. Then it would come straight to my department, and we can.
And there's also an online accessibility form if you notice accessibility issues. I'm just nosy about these things, which is why I always encourage people to email mayor and council as well, because then if I don't know about it, I can't help change it. But also, of course, trust the transportation department on this stuff. Richard? Sorry, just what's the correct contact for the transportation department that you were mentioning?
Transportation info at nanaimo.ca.
All one word, transportationinfo@nanaimo.ca. Cool.
We also do, on our transportation page, have a report a problem
Right.
feature, so that's also comes directly to us.
Cool. Richard?
So can you please clarify what this specifically includes? And I have a follow-up question for you.
So
500 or 5,000.
Bylaw 5000 is our bylaw that covers off parking, like on-street parking regulations that are not signed. So that is the clearance from a fire hydrant, clearance from an intersection, clearance from a crosswalk. There is clearance from driveways. There is what's defined as a crosswalk, an intersection, There are a number of things that we've recently added, and when you read the bylaw, you can see that they were added on with respect to micromobility. There are definitions around commercial vehicles and requirements for how they are operated within the city. The truck route bylaw is nested within that as well. There's a lot of things in it. They're very fine-grained nuts and bolts. If there's something particular you're thinking of, it might be.
It doesn't necessarily include the bus stops and those like islands and stuff like that, does it?
In what, like in a design context, or
Yeah,
in a,
yeah.
No, that's our manual of engineering standards and specifications document.
Oh, okay. My follow-up was that I recently connected with a blindness organization here in town that was newly created, and a lot of them mainly want to express that over the last 5 years, several of the people have been able to notice the increase in accessible sidewalks, and intersections was the main huge barrier for us blind people, was knowing where we are with those talking crosswalks and which one is crossable. It has been a big change in accessibility for many of the members.
That's great to hear.
Sorry, that's a positive outcome?
thing.
Okay.
Positive.
Fair enough.
Yes. Sorry to shock you.
Every once in a while
Noticing
it
positive
happens.
things. When you say you're here to start the conversation, like, is there going to be public engagement around these updates, or like if we don't mention it today, are there future opportunities?
I think there's going to have to be some engagement of some description. I think we're going to have to see how we unpack this to figure out what the appropriate paths are.
Okay.
There's definitely going to be some focused discussions, probably at this committee and others. I will also highlight that this is going to be a long process. It's definitely going to be over a year long to unpack it, understand it, digest it, and then come back with some suggestions. So.
Sean, you have a question?
Yeah, and I'm going to fumble through this because I'm not actually sure how to phrase it, so just stay with me. So I think like the question of what interests me is people not getting hit by cars. And I think that interests all of us. So as people, I think the worst, one of the perhaps largest opportunity to be hit by a car, it's not a great opportunity, but it is one, is if you're crossing at a space that's not a designated crossing spot. And so I suppose the thing that interests me is ensuring that the people for whom it's the most difficult to go far to get to a designated crossing spot don't have to do that. So if I park in an accessible spot and I have to go way the heck down the road to get to a crosswalk, that is a barrier. And people that may have some mobility challenges that feel compelled to cross the road outside of it. So like the linkage between who may be parking somewhere and their needs to be able to cross the road to access the thing that they're getting to. And I don't know that those things are always necessarily considered side by side, but when we look at it, especially in the bylaws, perhaps not, or maybe they are, but like if there's an accessible spot here, is there a crosswalk right next to it that's got the lights, that's got everything in it, considering the needs of the person who needs that accessible parking with the appropriate road crossing measures. So those things seem like they should be tied together, but that's not really a question, but that's where I'm at.
Well, it highlights a really important observation of how the system works overall, because we have zoning bylaws that say this type of business should be here and this type of business should be there and people should live here and people should live there, et cetera. And then we have transportation design elements that say this is how we want a street to look and this is how we want it to feel. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is serve people. And so, you know, in the transportation master plan, we've placed pedestrians at the highest priority. And we've also placed them at the highest priority in the densest land use areas because that's where we expect to see all of this sort of, this confluence of all of these different needs. And so I think if we look at something like Commercial Street or Wallace Street, you've got parking on either side of the street, you've got sort of places that people want to go to on either side of the street. How do you sort of make that all come together? And when we look at what's already kind of applied to our system from senior government through the Motor Vehicle Act, and then sort of distill it down to what we actually have control over and try and make it all work together, and then layer on human characteristics and human behavior, it's a complex equation. And so I'm not sure if you have a question. I'm not sure if I have an answer, but it's all part of the discussion and the thought process that we need to go through.
Yeah, the question is how to better link those things together so that when we have people who need to be able to access spaces, how do we make it as easy as possible for the most vulnerable people among us, rather than designing for the most people? If we design for the most vulnerable, then that supports everybody, right? So that's, I guess, my point.
I appreciate that philosophy, and yeah, I think that's the goal. Okay, I'm not seeing other hands at the moment on this.
Okay. If I can borrow just a few more minutes of people's time, I do have one other question.
Yes.
Sort of tangent to this. I'm sure many of you are aware that we have reintroduced pay parking downtown, and sort of coming from what we've started using in the hospital area, the application called Hotspot, we've rolled that out downtown as well. And I am wondering if anybody in this audience has had a chance to try it and what their feedback was.
Sean, and then Alexandria.
You'll see by my shirt that I work for the Nanaimo Association for Community Living. And it has, and if you're on Cavan Street, you'll see that nobody parks there. So functionally, what we have found is that it is incredibly challenging for many of our staff to use. And I think some of the feedback that's come up is that the method of paying is not really accessible. So one, you have to have a credit card. Two, you have to have a phone. If you don't have those things, then you have to walk up to the meter and pay to be able to park there. The method of tracking time, also, because you can't pay for a day, you have to pay for 2 hours at a chunk. So if you work in the area, you have to wait for your time to run out, and then you get a notice, and then you can add more time to it, but you have to keep doing that over time. For our staff in particular, and the folks, it effectively amounts to a reduction in pay, because there is no non-paid parking in the area. So essentially what's happening is we're sort of trying to figure out how we can supplement parking, and we can't. It just has to come out of sort of other budgets. But essentially what's happened is people are choosing to work from home because it's prohibitive for them to come downtown and stay on top of it. The nature of our work means we can't necessarily be on top of updating a meter every 2 hours. For individuals who don't have access to a credit card or a phone to complete the thing, it is a prohibitive barrier. If someone had to walk up the street to pay and uses a mobility device, it's not ideal. So to say it has not been received well is perhaps an understatement. And then what it has also led to is that individuals who pay for parking, now those spaces are full, and there's a sort of, I would suppose it's somewhat of a convoluted process to access one of the other spots, because the understanding is that if the lots and the parallel parking is full, then you have to call someone, say those spots are full. They will advise that you can then park in the paid zones, but only if those spaces are full. And if they come and check and the spaces aren't full, yada, yada, yada. So it's not a really clear process on what the rules are, and it seems to be, I would say most of our staff are just not coming downtown anymore. So where that Cavan Street used to be full with our staff many of whom are just coming in for meetings or to drop someone off or do a short thing. The process for them to pay out of their own money during work and then for us to reimburse them is prohibitive. And especially without free parking in the area, it is an exceptional challenge.
Okay. So I guess my curiosity would be, was there challenges finding parking previously? Because my anecdotal observation was that that street was pretty parked up most of the time, but...
No. So generally, we were able to find some sort of parking along Cavan, and for people coming down, there was usually, a couple of parking spots available on the perpendicular parking. The lot is generally pretty full. The parallel was sometimes open, although that's for permit holders. But people occasionally would, go up Victoria Road or something if they had to. But now it's just, and I think people are not sure about what the rules are, or that they're concerned about, because the tickets come pretty fast and furious now. So that's also a concern of people. So I think now there's tons of parking, which is great, except nobody uses it.
Okay, so one last question. This is going back in time a little bit. And if you can, do you know how things functioned when pay parking was there in 2018?
No. Okay. No, so that was, but I suspect it was possibly similar. I mean, I think, yeah, it was likely similar. We've grown quite a lot since 2018, so I think probably back then we were not nearly the size we are now. Now we operate, something like 15 homes across Nanaimo, multiple apartment complexes, 2 farms, et cetera. So there's more people coming to our main office downtown, and with, just the growth of the organization, there's more people that need to be there more frequently. Yeah, but I would, anecdotally, I don't know that it's, I think the change is in such a way, I think probably the biggest thing that people feel is somewhat confusing is how to pay. Because as an employer, for us to reimburse everyone individually every time they park is prohibitive. And I think most employers maybe feel the same way. So if it were easier to just pay without necessarily having to use your phone or a QR code, that would probably do a thing, rather than us sort of saying, oh, here, you can use one of the credit cards and go out and do the thing and then come back and forward. And so the process of payment feels like a change from what it used to be previously, where it was maybe more meters or more sort of structured in that way, where now it's all this, which is different.
Okay, so there are some meters out there, though.
There is one, I believe,
okay.
And it's up by the upper lot. Okay. So you have to walk up the street beside the building there, the
okay.
Business Examiner, and that's the only way to physically pay.
Okay. Okay.
Alexandria?
I'd like to speak to the app itself, which in my experience in speaking with people who have been trying to install the app and use the app, just not particularly intuitive compared to other major cities where I've used similar, types of apps to pay for meter parking. So that's just sort of a little aside. And to echo some of what Sean has said about when we've had vans come from Claytree to use the Snoozlin room at NACL, whereas typically they would, in the past, they would have just grabbed money and put it in the meters before when there was pay parking and could do that from petty cash. Now the process of staff getting the app, credit card, just convoluted and just makes it, it's another barrier to access.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, would another meter closer to that end of the block be an improvement or just another meter?
Yes.
Yes, it would be an improvement.
Yes, it would be an improvement.
Yes, it
I was
potentially
also
could be.
going to say yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because the meters take coins?
They should still take coins, yep.
Okay. Richard?
Is there is the only way to pay literally by getting there in person and you can't pay remotely?
There is an app that you can use that you wouldn't necessarily need to be there to pay for it.
Okay. Sorry, the way that Sean was describing it made it sound like there was no option, but I imagine
there's an app
is.
there's an app you can use, and then there's also a QR code that you can scan on if you're in the area and not close to a meter.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So maybe just a kind of quick recap. So pay parking has been downtown for a very long time. In 2018, we had a rash of vandalism that triggered us to pull out the old mechanical meters.
Yeah.
And then COVID came along and we changed parking, and then we had construction, so we changed parking. And so we're reintroducing the pay parking. But then, as we've done in the hospital area, we're trying to add another option for people to pay to just sort of diversify the options. And so, if somebody's sitting having dinner and they want to pay while they're extend their time, they can do that. But anyways,
I think people are having confusion because it's like 2-hour parking, and in the app you can select like parking for 6 hours, but then it'll say no, you can only actually pay for 2 hours. And then at the end of 2 hours, people are like, do I have to move my car, or can I just pay for another 2 hours?
That was sort of our effort to not force people to move, but also to encourage people to not stay past 2 hours. But it landed well.
Now we're just confused. And then if you use the app, there's a 25-cent service charge, and then if you just use the QR code, there's a 35-cent usage fee. So it's like different amounts based on whether you use the app or the QR code.
The charge to the user is still the same.
The theoretical amount of the pay, like of the time to park, is the same, but the fee is different based on the app or the QR code. Sean?
Yeah, so it is more expensive overall. So if you just pay at the meter, it's $1.25 an hour or whatever it is. If I use the phone for 2 hours, it costs me $2.85. So it is more expensive to use the app than it is to go up and pay at the thing.
And it's even more expensive just to use the QR code than to use the app.
So those service fees are passed on to the user, not absorbed as part of the thing.
Okay.
Okay, we are running out of time, and I do want to get to at least 8C, which is the verbal update from Evan Lloyd, our manager of emergency, of our emergency program manager, about emergency preparedness. The other two are important, but the LEAP update, we're actually going to get a complete update on that in May, so we can skip the preview today and just know that we're excited to hear all the good things that have come from the recommendations on improving the LEAP program. And we had a verbal update as well from Damon Johnson about the funding for Camp Sensation from the Ministry of Children and Family Development. But I think, spoiler alert, we got the funding. So that's the update. The update is, yay, funding for Camp Sensation, and the city's working with some new partners to make sure that new families can get access to that awesome camp. We had a really good presentation about Camp Sensation, so we're all up to date on that. Richard? You got your hand up there?
Yeah, it was actually in regards to the fees that users are having to pay depending on which option. I kind of have personal objections that like it should just be transferred on to like everyone, not just a specific type of use, because like for some people that could just be an accessibility barrier, and then you're paying the accessibility tax to be able to do the accessible version of it. Like I see this all the time in education.
Yeah.
Where, like blind accessible textbooks are more expensive.
I would concur that some of us are kind of finding out more about the realities of this app, and are like, I'm personally committed to looking into this and figuring this out. So it's an equitable system. I sent an email about that to senior staff yesterday. So I'm happy to follow up with any committee members if you have concerns about this, and we will get this right. Okay, so I'm going to invite, thanks for that, Richard. Evan Lloyd is going to join us just to talk about emergency preparedness in the city and what's being done on that. We've got a nice 11 minutes to cover this.
I brought some just hard copy resources.
He's brought some resources.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that this resource also exists online. And we can get this sent out to the committee members.
Yeah, it certainly does. I can send an email with a PDF after. I wasn't aware that people would be online. Sorry about that. Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm Evan. I'm the city's emergency program manager, and I think I was asked to come and speak to the committee about initiatives within the emergency program and how they relate to inclusivity. So I've got a little list of notes to talk about. So the first thing I guess I'll talk about is the resource I handed out. So in general, in the emergency program, I do work in the community to promote resilience concepts with the community, and what that means is basically speaking with community members and groups about what they can do to prepare, largely at home and within their neighborhoods, to be prepared for major emergencies and disasters that might happen here in Nanaimo. And the resources we largely use to support that work, the guides that you see here are part of a suite of guides provided by the province through the King's Printer. We get these on order, and one of the ones that we provide is this guide for people living with disabilities, and it has some good content in there. And the reason I brought it today, obviously, is I think it's topical for the committee, but just to give you an example of some of the material that we hand out to community members when we engage with them on concepts of resilience. So we meet with community groups sort of on a as requested basis and provide messaging and content that's both specific to Nanaimo, but also aligned with provincial guidelines on emergency preparedness, things like that. Okay, so I haven't been familiar with the committee in the past, so apologies if I'm maybe not hitting the mark here correctly, but I wanted to speak to some of the work the program does just in regards to what I think you might want to learn about. So for one topic, for like emergency crisis evacuations of people living with disabilities, I really defer to Nanaimo Fire Rescue and our emergency responders. Although from my own personal experience, generally speaking, the guidance I'm familiar with is that people who may struggle to evacuate in an immediate evacuation are guided to call 911, even though they may feel that 911 is getting inundated with calls. 911 dispatch has a direct line to fire staff in their vehicles. And so if, say, for instance, we had an apartment fire and the residents were being asked to evacuate it and a person was living, maybe they're wheelchair bound or something like that, the elevators are shut down, we would ask them to call 911 and to let the fire dispatch know that what apartment they're in and that they need assistance with the evacuation. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult in a timely manner for appropriate personnel to be aware of people living or needing help with evacuations. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about there. I talked about my second item with the handbook. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention is one of the grant-funded projects that my department, along with our colleagues in social planning, are working on is an age-friendly communities grant application, and that's going to be moving hopefully forward. And what that will do is we're going to develop a handbook for people living in Nanaimo, elderly people living in Nanaimo, so that we recognize that getting material such as this and using a lot of the communication teams materials and social media messaging and things like that isn't always the best method of getting information into the hands of our elderly population. And so we're going to develop a handbook and try and provide hard copies of that book directly to where seniors gather, whether it's recreation facilities or other community gathering places. And that material and the content therein will be tailored to our elderly population. So that's one thing we're working on right now. For Another, I guess, principle I would say, so leading on from that, another work that we do in communicating with the community is recognizing that there's a variety of reading comprehension levels in the community. And one thing I talk to communications often about, or one thing they often coach me and guide me about, is making sure that our language is simplified. I can get carried away with using long words or acronyms and things like that. So we do our best to communicate with some simplified language. I've got a major project coming before council shortly to provide some information about updating the community on climate hazards, and a lot of the content therein is, working with the consultant for the last couple of years, is to provide that information in image-based ways so that it's sort of clearly communicated to the public regardless of any language barriers there may be. So talking maps, diagrams, icons and things like that, and trying to flowcharts, some simplified flowcharts and things to try and communicate effectively with the community. And with that project, we'll have that project will give us a new data set of understanding for climate hazards in Nanaimo. And so with that, what that'll allow us to do is launch a new initiative for guidance and messaging to the community that, again, is going to be based on those maps, based on diagrams, and communicate in hopefully a very accessible way. And it's, I think, data and information that if council is supportive of it being released, will have, I think, will resonate with the community, I think, in some ways. So. And then I guess the only other one I wanted to mention is that we have part of our messaging in resilience is our emergency response communication tool, which is Voyant Alert. It's something that we promote every chance we get the chance to talk to people about resilience and preparedness. It's a subscriber-based tool. It's on our website. We promote it regularly. It requires community residents to sign up on their own, but within that sign up, you get to select how you want to be communicated with. So you can receive automated text alerts, you can receive automated phone calls, you can receive emails. It's similar to, but different from the provincial system you'll see for Amber Alerts and things like that. That system is not subscriber-based. Everyone automatically gets those alerts. This is a separate one. The province doesn't allow for use of that system unless it's very specific circumstances. So this is a Voyant Alerts, a system that we use here in the city. It's also used in the regional district. If you sign up, you can get alerts depending on where you are geographically. We can send alerts based on very confined geographic locations, or we can send them broadly to the entire community. And again, you choose how you interact with those alerts and get them to you. I feel like I quickly rattled through all those, but yeah, I know we're sort of short on time today, so that's my list. Are there any questions?
Sean?
Yeah, this is great. So just speaking for our organization, we have part of it's because of how we're licensed and certified. We have an incredibly robust and comprehensive drill process. So with something like the alert system, are there test alerts that's sent out? So like, is that a thing that's part of the schedule where this is a test alert that demonstrates an earthquake or something like that, that we could tie into our existing drill structure?
Every year there's an annual earthquake drill called Shakeout. It's a province-wide drill and we participate in that. And one of the main ways we participate is testing the Voyant Alert system. We do one major test every year. We do a full blast test of the system to all users in the city. And then we track the data on that as well and go from there.
And it will scare the daylights out of you. Richard?
Hello. I was curious about the handout. I find that often handouts aren't always accessible for people with low vision. I was wondering if your handouts, your handbooks and such has accessible information in there, if it's large print.
Yeah,
and
it's
if there's digital versions.
Definitely large print, which is nice.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I brought it today was also I was actually hoping for feedback. So this is not material that we develop here at the city. It's material that we order from the province through the King's printer. We get it for free at cost or at no cost to relate to the community. But part of the reason I wanted to bring it to the community today was to get feedback on it, to see if this is an effective tool that it's the tool we rely on, or one of the main ones. And so I wanted to get that feedback. As far as people visually impaired, I recognize a lot of our material, whether it's on our website or in hard copy, I don't have the solutions on hand. I'm not knowledgeable enough for that maybe in the moment, but I'm definitely happy to work with our communications department if they have ideas or if there's guidance from the committee as well.
Richard, I can get a copy of this to you,
Yeah.
and if any other committee members are interested in receiving a physical copy, and Evan, you said it also lives online somewhere?
Yeah, so preparedbc.ca is the province's website where they provide all this content, and then on there is there's a whole library of PDFs they provide of these types of guides. I can provide the link, the URL. I would have done so previously if I'd known there was more people online.
So I think
Yeah.
if we'll get Legislative Services to send out a link to this information to committee members.
If people want to search Prepared BC, it shouldn't be too difficult to find it online as well, but I will send the URL to Legislative Services.
An emergency
I would be happy to provide any feedback on improving the accessibility of the handbook based upon low vision and vision impaired standards from the CNIB.
Yeah, that'd be great. And something we'll also explore in our age-friendly grant project for the guidebook for elderly people in the community.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you. And of course, Emergency Preparedness Week is the first week
Yes.
of May.
Thank you, Kathleen Solari-Smear. The first week of May is Emergency Preparedness Week, so we hope that we've got some fresh, ready-to-go content for that as well. So yeah, any feedback, if it can be given back to us in a timely manner, that'd be amazing.
And one last question from Jocelyn.
Hi, just really quickly, I'm on the committee with Prepared BC that is updating that guidebook.
Yay. Oh,
And so, Richard, I would love to hear whatever you can suggest. And there are people with low vision on the committee as well, but I know it's
that's great.
everybody. And I would love to hear any feedback on that guide, which is also online as well, because I think there's a lot to talk about. Things change. There's new tools like Voyant Alert, and we're right at the end. So I'm just going to say that I would love to see the city in the same way that we engage with doing trainings for like earthquake kits and stuff like that. There's an aspect in this Prepared BC guide for people with disabilities called a personal care network. And it's a general approach to if you need support to with evacuation, with emergencies, to identify people in your life who can sort of work with you when you need it. And I feel like that's a tactic that everybody should have. And there's lots of isolation in our world at the moment. And so there are a lot more people than just people with disabilities. But that, I think, would be a great opportunity for some community engagement and it's not health promotion, but information sharing and getting people sort of thinking about that, because that is a social support to emergency preparedness that I don't think people have the skills for necessarily or know about it. So that's something that it has come out of this work with Prepared BC for me.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I'm really happy to hear we got people on the inside working on this, so thanks for being there. And thank you, Evan, for the presentation today. And yeah, some really strong points. That brings us to the end of our time for today. So thank you, everyone, for your contributions. Yeah, really helpful as always. And please feel free to follow up with me or Councillor Armstrong or Legislative Services if you have anything further you want to talk about, literally anytime. Could I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting? Moved by Tammy, seconded by Linda. All in favor? I see your hands. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions today, and have a lovely evening.